I just want to introduce the co-authors of the book, Ambika Behal. She is a journalist and a communication consultant, and she loves to help people manage their sustainability in their lives. And with her is Wong, and he works for the Wong Group, and you're the head of community there. And you love open air, clean water, you were brought up in the UK, and so quite often he will be actually doing marathon runs and volunteering and charity work for the causes that you care about. So I just wanted to ask, what is sustainability, first of all, to you?
Well, I'll take a stab at that, because sustainability is one of those things that's got such a multifaceted connotation in this day and age. You know, it's a lot of people equate it with eco-friendliness and tree hugging, but in reality, it's all about how do you create a happier, healthier environment. You know, how do you create something that's going to last for the long term through making it happier and healthier?
Yeah, that's actually quite broad.
It's quite broad. So that was our take on it, because we didn't want to start with the whole, put in place all the ESG principles. We wanted to do something that's very open and accessible to everybody and anywhere, really.
Okay, so I just wanted to, my next question is obviously, how did this book come about? And why the three of you?
So we were all at the Fun Group. It was Liam Fung first, and then we became the Fun Group. And I decided, I don't know how or why, but I decided I needed to start a sustainability club. And I think this is part of the fact that I was in corporate communications and I was seeing and working with people from all different departments around the company. Liam Fung, as you know, is primarily fast fashion. And I was getting a lot of people coming to talk to me and saying, we've got suppliers and manufacturers, and they're asking questions about how do we do things in a more eco-friendly, how do we change our packaging. So you could see that there was a willingness for people to start talking and start a conversation, if not start implementing. And it kind of just took off. So I said, I approached first Carmen and then Loz, and I said, listen, we've all got very different areas of expertise. Maybe we could, create something and just start rallying people to come in, and meet with us every month. And we started a monthly lunchtime meeting, and we just got people talking, and I think a lot of fun things came out of it.
Yeah, because actually when I think of Liam Fung, there's actually quite a for Hong Kong when it comes to sustainable companies overall. I think they're doing their best to try and kind of better their sustainability practices. I mean, we don't want to talk about them all night, but I think at least there was like an opening already to be able to do stuff.
Yeah.
And did you feel like you could actually talk positively there and make things happen?
I think it was a very positive start, and we were really lucky because the floor that Loz and I worked on has, we were set up, we'd started all the recycling, and we'd started putting in place a lot of the systems that we wanted to put in place within, throughout the company. And so we were teaching people how, part of my role in comms was get up these signs and teach people what you can recycle. So what do you put in what trash can? And I think it kind of started from there. Maybe you can address that a little bit more as well, just your perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, with the Sustainability Club and kind of us all being a bit of a kind of workshop testing ground for what we then wanted to roll out with the rest of the company was really bringing, for us and for me, I think in this book, was bringing sustainability to individuals who wanted the company to do more and wanted to do more without necessarily waiting for a big company-wide policy decision to get started.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were very lucky on the floor we were working on where that kind of approach was encouraged. So there was lots of opportunity for people to experiment and try different things that we had. I think the company provided a budget for a load of top lights to be bought in so that people wouldn't have to keep using styrofoams just used around the neighbourhood. Someone created some cards that would explain that in English and Cantonese, so that even if you didn't speak the local language, you could kind of get the staff in the restaurants on board with filming that up yourself. And yeah, these are all very small steps, but little things that just changed the atmosphere on the floor, so then made it feel like everyone was kind of on the same page and trying to do the same things. And if you have a team of people doing that, that can also translate to kind of bigger decisions that do affect more across the company.
Yeah, I think it's probably incredibly hard to try and push a sustainability focus when nobody in the office wants to do anything about it. And you know, I've heard of several offices that are like that, and it's kind of like almost like banging your head against the wall, I guess. You know. But what do you think when it comes to? I mean, I actually want to ask you first of all, actually, why corporate? Like, you know, you branded it as the corporate kind of handbook. Why is that?
I think corporate was, you know, actually this book is probably more open to, smaller companies, startups as well as corporates. We just branded it corporate because we said, okay, this is the environment we've come from. And if people start things at a corporate level and corporates do well with that, other companies start looking and saying, hey, we can do that too. And I think corporate was also from a community point of view. You know, our co-author Carmen isn't with us today, and she's normally the one who addresses everything community. But from the community standpoint, it's easier to get people together. You know, you've got a lot of people working in a corporate, and if you start rallying just one or two people, you've already got a starting point. And I think a lot of people don't realize that those small steps are really important. How you get, two people together, you can actually make a difference.
Yeah.
So that's really the corporate side of it.
So if you had to kind of, what are the main problems, do you think, that companies have when it comes to sustainability? Because obviously, I know we run a startup, the first thing is obviously time and money, right, at the end of the day. So we try and do our best, but sometimes things slip because of time and money. And the same with corporations, if not even worse sometimes. So what are the pain points when it comes to trying to build that framework?
Do you want to start, Jason?
Yeah, sure. So I wrote the corporate section of the book, and a big part of that was based on my experience at a consulting company. And when I joined there, they had no kind of CSR program. Someone had, I think, in a town hall asked the CEO what that company's focus was for sustainability and CSR, and the CEO's response was, what are you doing about it? Like, you're like, okay, can I just throw it back? And so when I was there, I spent, I think, a big part of what I got out of that experience there was setting up CSR and volunteering practices within that office. And I think the pain points for the company were that everyone wants to get behind sustainability initiatives. So the senior leaders, they know that they should be moving in this direction, and they want to support that. And they'll get behind any initiative that does that, but they don't want to be the ones to take those first steps. So when I was there, I was fortunate to have the support of some senior partners, but not all of them. And just having that was kind of enough. And from the leader's perspective, if someone in the company is willing to kind of go ahead on their own and do all these initiatives that you want to do, but might not have time to do, or maybe focuses somewhere else, then it was a clear yes from that. Especially when a lot of sustainability initiatives are about improving efficiency and reducing waste, and improving the brand's reputation as well. So from just a cold cut kind of bottom line
so
perspective.
at the end of the day, it actually makes sense as a, when you're talking about bottom dollar. But I think, do you think most companies do it now because they feel like they have to? Like they have to have a sustainability arm because people are going to question why they don't?
I think there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
There is a lot of pressure. And we kind of wanted to take some of that pressure off and say, okay, it's just, a lot of companies are worried about the CSR and ESG angle, but we're thinking, okay, even if we teach people how they can make little changes, it's something that they can take home as well. I mean, it's simple. You take your own Tupperware. You bring your own coffee cup when you go out to Starbucks. You don't need to keep bringing in lots of plastic. And they're tiny, tiny changes. But if you start with those and build up, I think it starts hitting the corporate level as well.
So what do you think is the biggest one thing a company should do when they first start, or what is the most important thing?
I think just encouraging tiny things, recycling. It's the basic level. Encourage that. Encourage using less. How do you do more with less?
Yeah, I think just being open to not keeping things the way way they are just because that's how they've been for a long time. A lot of what we did and a lot of what we did at the consulting company as well, it hadn't been done before, but people were willing to say, okay, yeah, we'll give it a try and see how it goes.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of businesses that still sort of rely on a lot of printouts, for instance.
Yeah.
You know, my husband works for a law firm, and he says he has the tidiest desk because everybody else has stacks and stacks and stacks of paper and files. I don't know, he's probably got the time over anybody else to like manage his, you know, his kind of paperwork. But I think it obviously takes time for people to be able to get into that mindset of maybe not looking at a piece of paper versus looking at a screen. You know, I mean, we used to have that at Lane Crawford all the time. It was like, print it. And it was like, why? Like, why do you want it printed, you know? So it was this thing of like, I think managing in your head how you are going to work and how you know, I guess it's about tools, the right tools, you know, digital tools and stuff like that that can help you kind of, you know, work with these things, I think.
Well, addressing the printing issue, you know, a lot of people are, you know, sometimes managers, you can't change them. They're very used to having paper and they're just not going to change. But one of the fun things that, you know, we'd started doing with the club, we were encouraging people to join us. We said, listen, you know, there are fonts you can use that will actually use less ink when you print and less paper. So it was about trying to bring some balance in. You can't fix everything. It's impossible. You can't put a Band-Aid on everything. Yeah. And if you pick up the book, you'll find out which font that is. It's just, there's no quick fix.
Yeah.
So you've got to take, you know, you've got to move in a direction that's positive, but, you know, teach people that it's not going to be perfect. It's a start.
And like, so how do you want to message this book? Like, where would be the ideal? Are people meant to take it with them who work in corporates or work in businesses, or is it meant to come more from top down, from a leadership kind of level, where you're kind of managing teams and letting them, you know what to do?
I think we designed it so that it was any which way. Our ideal was that the average person would just pick it up. And by average, I'm not saying somebody who's mediocre, I'm saying just anybody who's working at a company. You don't have to be, you know, a senior leader, you don't have to be a CEO, you don't have to be in the C-suite, you can be anyone. And if you are willing to pick that up and say, hey, okay, I can start doing some of this myself at work, then you're already starting a community base and community building from there. So that was the ideal.
I mean, I know how difficult it is, and we also like, you know, there's a lot of things that we do in this business that we just like, oh, I hate this, but we don't know how to get around it. You know, we don't have time, we don't have resources. I hate the way that when we send SF parcels, they always get put in a plastic bag, and I'm like, oh, I hate this, but they're really cheap. I don't know who else to use at the moment. I mean, there probably are ways of sorting that out, but there's so much stuff in there. So it's kind of like, you know, I guess what your book does is manage how to manage the stages.
Yes, yeah. So it's, you know, it's one step at a time. Once you've managed something, you suddenly find that, you know, once you've got one idea under control, you start opening up to a different idea. For example, there's a company in India that, you know, works in retail. And they were very frustrated with the fact that all their shipments were going out in plastic. So they made that switch. It was a gradual switch, but it was very interesting to see their social media messaging over the months since they moved into it. But they started putting things in cardboard boxes and, you know, wrapped in paper, so there's no plastic when it arrives on your doorstep. And then they were just encouraging people that, look, you know, it's not going to be perfect. This is, you know, e-shopping as it is. But, you know, we encourage you to recycle boxes. You've now received, you have no plastic. It is not difficult to go along and put your box in a recycling unit. So it's just those little tiny things, you know, they slowly started making time for one thing after the
And I
other.
think, you know, you touched on the point, you said it's about, like somebody said to you, well, why don't you go ahead and do it? It's about community.
Yeah.
And it's also about people, everybody getting together to do it together. And I think that was the takeaway from the Copenhagen summit. Like, everybody has to, the thing is that everybody's been working remotely, but the problem is being too big for people to be able to solve problems worldwide. And at least I think we feel like we're getting somewhere. I don't know. I mean, how do you think sustainability is in terms of Hong Kong versus the rest of the world? You know, how far behind are we?
Do you want to? Lars has just been off in Alaska, so he's had
Oh,
he's
wow.
had some interesting perspectives, you know.
How was it?
It was incredible. Yeah, so I was there trying to climb Mount Denali with a friend. We were raising money for 350 Liverpool, and so they do a lot of climate change advocacy and pushing for a decarbonisation, essentially. And well, being on this type of mountain expedition, you get all of like-minded people around. So basically, everyone on the expedition was clearly enjoyed being in mountains and being surrounded by nature. So everyone was kind of on the same page on that front. I would say, in terms of other practices in the US, recycling seems to be pretty underdeveloped from what I saw when I was there, just in the few cities that I was at. And speaking to investors who work on ESG and that kind of thing, they suggest, and they've all said that northern kind of Europe and some parts of Europe are where they've had the most questions about sustainability and business practices. A couple of CFOs I spoke to said that they weren't getting those questions in the US, and it was starting to happen in a few places in Asia.
Do you think Hong Kong is up to date?
I think Hong Kong's not doing too badly.
Yeah.
I think we complain a lot because we want to see a bigger change and much faster. But I think Hong Kong is doing well in the sense that people have started. You know, I do go to the US often, and I always get very frustrated because I'm saying there's nothing happening here. I don't see people taking their reusable coffee cups to Starbucks. I don't think anybody knows what, you know, take your own packaging is. I tried to take out. I tried to give them my own box, and they refused. So I said, okay, I'm not having it. It's packed in plastic.
It's funny, a friend of mine from the UK, she moved over from Hong Kong, and she was also like, she came back here for a trip, and she's like, I've never heard so many people say the word sustainability in Hong Kong. Like, I don't hear it in UK. And I was like, what, really? And she was like, yeah. She said, I came here, we had a drink, 2 girlfriends took out their metal straws. And I was like, okay. And she said, in the UK, would I ever do that? And so it's kind of interesting. I think it's also because of the size of us, and also, like, obviously our communities are quite tight.
Yeah.
And luckily, when it's trendy, it picks up and it spreads.
No, I agree. I do think that, you know, the UK and perhaps Europe to some extent are a little bit more advanced, just from the point of view that they're coming off the back of the frugality of World War II. And I think that's still, it's sort of a long-term effect. But I know even growing up, you know, people only had a couple of pairs of shoes. You know, people were still very conscious. You get those shoes fixed when they're broken. And I don't know when we've suddenly made that, you know, downward dive into, okay, my shoes are scuffed and now I need a new pair.
When getting fixed shoes costs more than getting new shoes.
That's
what
when,
happens.
that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And I think in Hong Kong, you know, we still have things like you can go get your shoes fixed, and it's not terribly expensive.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it has the infrastructure for us to be better than we are sometimes.
Yeah.
But I also think that here, because it is a smaller community in a sense, people are banding together, and you're seeing it come out of, you know, all sorts of different directions, and I think it's quite nice.
So do you think it's a government thing, or do you think we need to just get on and do it?
I think people need to get on and do it. I mean, it's like this book says. The book says it's for corporates, but, you know, you're not waiting for the CEO or chairman to suddenly decide, okay, everybody, today you bring a metal straw into the office. You kind of got to get into the office and just get on and do it, and if you do it, when you start talking to other people, they'll start doing it too.
I mean, I think, in the board topic, what do you think is going to happen and when in the future? I mean, do you think, sustainability is such a big topic. You know, you're talking about anti-plastics, we're talking about fashion, we're talking about
wellness.
We're talking about wellness. There's so many different areas. Wellness probably is going to be the fastest thing that kicks off, probably.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, from this point of view, it could be any angle. Maybe you can take a stab at what you think first.
I'm not
Sure. I think in all of those fields, there are very strong movements happening in each of them. But I think in a lot of places the default is still the same as it has been in the past. So the speed of that changing is interesting to me. I'm not in a good position to kind of take a step on which one will come first or which one will gain the most momentum first. Probably I would say it'll be waste management, so recycling, and that just because with all of so many countries banning imports of recycling waste, countries that need to deal with that like, very, very quickly. So I think that change will be first.
Is Hong Kong good at recycling?
No, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's terrible.
So what can we do about that?
That is, I think it's going to be on the onus of a lot of private companies to take that on. You know, at the fund group we had Hong Kong Recyclers Report, and I think that was the only way we could start with some semblance of, okay, there's some accountability, but even then you don't really know the chain of accountability, and that's something that you kind of hope for the best with.
Yeah.
But I would like to see more accountability coming through. But then to the effect of, you know, there's also that, you know, people do get, so like Tanya sitting here is working on this, people get anxious. You know,
Yeah.
you do start
Oh
suffering
God, yeah,
co-anxiety.
totally.
And that's a whole other category because you're thinking, okay, now I have all this pressure. What do I do with it? You know, where do I start?
I mean,
what's the
I
end result?
have a plastic water bottle that I bought from Philippines or wherever ages ago, and sometimes I carry it around with me. I wash it and whatever. But like, I'm embarrassed to carry that bottle of water because I don't want people to think that I bought it. So I've taken the labels off so that they know that it is old. You know, it's like this thing of like, you just don't want that pressure
Yeah.
of people thinking, or judging, you know, oh, she's got a plastic water bottle, you know, and it's just like this, and I don't want one either, but it's just this kind of message that you're portraying, and I think, yeah, maybe that's helpful though, you know, I don't mind it at all, it's fine. Social media and all of this stuff has, I guess, helped generated a lot of, you know, people of being aware and
Yeah. I mean, I think awareness is good, and I think, you know, ultimately it's your own consciousness as well.
yeah.
How do you treat something? How do you maybe help the next generation understand it?
Yeah.
I think sometimes that the next generation is better at understanding a lot of this stuff than we are.
For sure. I mean, millennials, Gen Z, they're already learning so much about it.
Well, even the younger kids, you know, you can see them, you know, we'd gone to the beach recently, and it was the kids who were all under the age of 10 who were most concerned about all the trash that they found on the shoreline. And their worry was not, let's build sandcastles on the beach, let's pick up the trash. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of hope in that as well, in that perspective. So maybe they'll do a better job than we are.
I hope so. So, yeah, so we will just ask if anybody has any questions they want to ask.
The most
Probing.
thought-provoking question.
On the spot now, that's it.
No pressure.
We can also ask, like,
Yeah,
normal
you can
ones.
ask.
Like, what is your, yeah, go on.
I'm just curious, I'm from Australia and lived in New Zealand for 7 years where sustainability is everywhere.
Yeah.
It's really embedded into the culture. It's part of life or something. But I'm just wondering, in Hong Kong, is there a portfolio which sits under a sustainability area within government that perhaps, I don't know, just in your research, did you discover that there's some accountability around sustainability in general?
Do you want to?
I mean, ESG reporting is now becoming more part of like requirements for the stock exchange here. I don't have in-depth knowledge of it, but it's something that I think is fairly recent.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that then becomes embedded into businesses and then.
So I think that's one of the things that hasn't played out yet, and that's I think partly why we started writing this, because there is no accountability from the government at this point. It's still very much there's basic infrastructure in place. So, like for example, I wanted to get rid of an old broken vacuum cleaner that really couldn't be repaired, and I ended up, you know, I was online, and there's just so many rabbit holes which were going nowhere. It was all government, you know. How do I get rid of this? And I'd reached out to the circular community group to see if anybody else had a solution. but everything that links back to the government was just very, it's just a lot of rabbit holes. And so I find that that's one of the issues that I think it would be interesting to see how the government could play a role, but I think at this point I don't have hope for it. I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question. I wish I'd spent some more time in Australia. I've never been, so I feel like that would be interesting to see. I've heard so much about how many good things are happening.
That's the thing, they probably don't talk about it so much because
Yeah,
they're
it's
doing it.
part of your, yeah.
Yeah.
How about the ESG investment? So that's the from the finance, ESG investment has been a really big theme. So if not from the government, how about from finance? So,
It's not something we were really addressing because we were trying to look more beyond ESG and CSR. We were addressing it from a very base, like average person point of view. So we weren't really thinking about, what kind of investments going in and stuff. I mean, I think it's great that there's a lot of that happening, especially in, I think, private companies. Private investment is the way to go. But there's not much I can really add to that at that point. I don't know if you can add anything.
Yeah, like definitely nothing kind of end over us, but I know there's big things happening in green finance, people looking at green bonds and in different ways of financing kind of more sustainable projects. And then from a societal point of view, impact investing has been kind of up and coming for at least a decade. So things are definitely moving there. But as Ambika said, our book was much more targeting people who wanted to take personal actions that would then scale up to bigger things in their companies.
So with your book, actually, I forgot to mention, it's in 3 different sections, right?
2 sections. So
What
it's
is that?
corporate, community, communications. So Loz was the corporate side of it.
That's how the book was split.
Yeah, Carmen was community, and I was in communications. And the whole idea was to be able to get people to start taking those steps, understand why they're taking the steps, understand how to rally other people together with them, and then even get to that point where you're communicating your message out. So you're, I guess a lot of people don't understand how you spread the word and spread the message, even though you have all this social media. So it was just a way of being able to explain, like, these are the small things you can do, and this is how it really can make a difference. Just at that point when nothing surprises me. I've been a journalist for a long time, nothing surprises me.
For me, it was just looking at and speaking with people at different companies, the perception that one needed to wait or get approval from a lot of different people before doing something, versus the reality that actually it's much easier to go ahead and start something and people will support it probably more than you think they will.
Yeah, which is kind of like, I guess, instinct when it comes to building communities and I guess that's important for a lot of businesses, but I think a lot of businesses don't play a big part in trying to build that, But if you're talking about businesses in general in Hong Kong, who's doing the best, do you think?
I don't want to highlight anybody. I think there are.
Who's doing well?
I think there are a lot of people who are doing well. I can see a lot of people who are making changes. I know Standard Chartered introduced. They stopped using plastic cups, for example, for the marathon that they sponsor in Hong Kong. And for me, that was a step. It was a big step. So I think a lot of people are starting to take. You can see actions coming. So some people are obviously doing better than others, but I don't want to sort of pinpoint.
Any more questions?
Sorry, I've
Yeah.
actually got 2 questions.
Ooh.
So, is it okay to ask
Of
2
course.
questions? Yeah. So, like when it comes to businesses, like sustainability also means like increasing in cost. Like, what's the motive? Like, for example, like as you said, like the Standard Chartered marathon, they don't use plastic cup, which mean they need to like extra cost to purchase like cups and stuff, and then have someone to like wash them. So what is the motivation for like corporates to, I don't know, like aim for that higher cost, like more than just do it for the sake for the environment? I know that like environment is a big issue, but like what is a more tangible like advantage for the corporate to drive more sustainable?
Well, okay. I mean, my take on it, and I'll let Mo's take, give his perspective in a minute as well. My take on it is right now, it is unmistakably the cool thing to do. Everybody's trying to jump on the bandwagon because everybody else is doing it. So I think there's that to think about. In an idealistic world, it would be people doing it because they really want to be doing it. But ultimately, I do think that these tiny steps, actually do lead to happier and healthier a workforce. Because your workforce is saying, okay, my company is doing something that actually means that they care about me and the environment. Because they're also reading, this is all that's happening. This is, the newspapers are exploding every day with all this terrible news about the environment and climate change, and people are taking note. So I think that, those little things saying, okay, we'll help you be a little bit happier. We'll take a little bit of a load off your conscience. So I think that's kind of one of the things that we have to think.
Yeah, and from like a business case point of view, a lot of actions that can be taken that are more sustainable will actually lead to savings. So if you're using less electricity or using less water, or you're drinking filtered water instead of buying bottled water at your conferences, those lead to pretty significant savings and they're more sustainable as well. So I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that companies and employees at companies can look to take advantage of that would be a win-win for both profit and also a sustainability perspective.
I know one of the issues I had, in the China offices, I would keep getting these pictures and you'd see these tables just littered with plastic bottles. And I kept asking, is there no other way you can serve water to people? And the response was consistently, well, if we don't serve people water in plastic bottles, they'll think we don't have any money, and so they won't be impressed. So there's a lot of these little misconceptions that you also have to get around as well. So it's kind of interlinked.
You have a second question?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
So that is a great answer because I think it requires education for the corporates to understand how they could save it in the long run. So my second question is when we talk about sustainability, I think we should mention Japan, but because Japan is doing really well in terms of recycling and then the public education, but in my point of view, I sort of feel the Japanese are doing it based on fear, they the whole society and community they were taught to be sustainable, not because they know it's good for the environment. It's because the government are forcing them. They will fine them, and then neighborhood will be blaming you if you don't do it. So do you think that maybe fear is what we need in the community to move it forward a little bit?
I would hope not. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely prefer when motivations are a bit more positive than fear of getting fired or social pressure. I know in Shanghai, I think they're also introducing pretty strict regulations on waste sorting, and people will lose social credit if they don't recycle properly. And so it is one way of incentivizing. Actually, the same with the peer pressure you mentioned earlier about being kind of scared to the people see
I
your
think
world.
it's fine if that happens, as long as people don't get beaten for it. I think if government's kind of maybe fining is fine. I mean, no spitting on the road, no whatever, it's no smoking, it's okay. But I think from the Japanese point of view, I think there's also a long history of it's the same with the Europeans, saving, recycling, keeping stuff that you might want for a rainy day in case something happens, and it is kind of an old mentality, I guess. They also have a lot of plastic, which I really hate, and it's a very weird mix with them. I don't know.
In Japan's case, maybe it's possibly, I was thinking about this the other day actually, I was maybe it's a little bit of guilt that they were the ones who created the concept of a lot of packaging. So maybe it's their way of saying, okay, we know we have to cut back a little bit, we've created it, it's a monster. And
they are also one of the big exporters of plastic as well to be recycled, along with the US, I think. Yeah.
I mean, I love the way that they pioneered kind of second-hand clothing for Asia, at least, for many years, and I'm not really sure why it hasn't taken on the rest of Asia, seeing as they've been mimicking Japan for so many years in other ways, like plastic.
Yeah.
Hello Kitty.
Yeah, exactly. But you have a question.
Yeah. Okay. Congratulations on the book. So at my work, we've just launched a sustainability club as well, and it's very.
Sorry, where are you from?
Well, I used to work at Lean Fund,
Oh.
but nowadays I'm with Jardines.
Okay.
And so and it's all about baby steps, just the small changes, and creating new habits, and just sounding very warm and approachable, and that everyone can join in. But I mean, we've only just started, and I think the big challenge for us was trying to get people to come to that first meeting, and so
Drink.
their approach.
Yeah, it's free lunch.
They took the approach of actually going to each sort of team and asking the head of that team to basically nominate someone. And I'm not sure that was the most effective way to go about unearthing those ambassadors and people that are quite passionate about it. I'm just interested, without giving away all your trade secrets for the book, but how did you go about finding those people across the business to come to that first meeting?
Bribe them with lunch. Said, here's a free lunch, come and join us.
But do you have any sort of tips? Because I'm not convinced that we went about it the right way, but I'm just interested to see what your thoughts are.
A lot of it was, for me, just from the comms point of view, that I was already talking to people and from all sorts of different parts of the company, and I found that there were certain people who would say something, and I'd say, oh, are you interested in this topic? And when you got a positive response, then, that was when you say, okay, this guy's going to come along. And it was pretty good, actually. A lot of people did come, and we had a lot of regular attendees, which was amazing. One of our regular attendees is right here, Diane.
Yeah, and I think nominating people, it's a way to get people in the room. I think it's more powerful when you have people who are of a similar or same mindset, who want to achieve the same kind of things, rather than I'm here because I
Was told to.
Yeah.
I think the people that do come, I think inherently everyone knows that it's a good thing, but I think we were struggling to make that leap.
You have to want to be there. If you don't want to be there, there's no point.
Yeah, I sort of felt like maybe if it was a more organic approach, then maybe it's somehow more authentic. But
Well, also
we
we
kind of
found
got there
that-
in the end. But
We also found that people who did want to be there and found some benefit would call their colleagues. And that's kind of how we started growing. Because you'd have one person and say, hey, I have this other person on my team who'd be really interested.
did
And they come along.
you get senior people?
We did.
Yeah.
We did, yeah.
Thank you.
You have a question.
I wanted to ask, what is the, jumping back on Marco's, what is the biggest thing that you've applied in terms of sustainable in your life or in the business you've worked in that has had an impact, on revenue in the long term? So you've seen maybe something coming back and you're like, see guys, this is actually, bringing us or making us, more sustainable, but also we're gaining here in terms of revenue.
Okay, that's a really good question. I think with the fund it's a little more complicated.
Right.
But do you have?
My role in community engagement involves organising a lot of events for volunteering, skill-based or hands-on volunteering, as well as kind of awareness-raising events. And actually, we found that by choosing more sustainable options for catering, basically for catering these events, the more sustainable options have actually been the cheaper ones.
Right.
So that's been very obvious for us, because if I'm managing the budget for an event, I can say, oh, if we use this food supplier instead of this one, they'll let us use our own containers, and they're not going to give us a ton of plastic, and also it's looking after the price of these guys. So that's I think the quickest and easiest example that comes to mind.
Do you have any in your personal life that you've seen was a big change in the long run as well?
I have lots. I think just my entire kitchen, the way it functions, I find that I'm not buying things as much as I need to. I'm an avid shopper of Live Zero, so I take my own packaging along. And I love that I don't have too much trash, and I don't I'm not spending as much money because I'm just consuming, and I'm very conscious about, if I go out, I know if there's something left over, there's going to be plastic takeaway boxes, and I don't want that to happen. So I do find that I think a lot more about how I spend money.
Yeah, Hong Kong is so plastic filled.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so hard for us. We all order from Deliveroo. It's not hard for us, for us. I mean, like, we live in a society where we don't really cook and we eat out all the time, and we sometimes go down to takeaway here with our plastic containers, but that's for that. But yeah, it's kind of like when I order something from Deliveroo, apart from medicinal manner, I feel guilty, for this, and it's like a way of like, I wonder whether there's a way of getting them to change. First and foremost, that would change a lot when it comes to.
Well, in India they have the tiffin system, so your boxes appear at your desk at lunch, which I think is amazing.
Also, you deliver them.
So there's an entire system of runners, and they will basically go to each individual house and pick up the home cooked meal, around 10 or 11 in the morning, and get it to your desk.
And it's a very profitable
Yeah,
business.
it's
It's one of the biggest case
Harvard's
studies.
done
And,
massive case
Could it
studies.
work?
Yeah.
It could. If it can work in Bombay, it can work anywhere.
Well, the labour's cheaper, I guess.
Yeah.
True.
So,
Yeah, of course.
But one of the other things that, getting back to your question is, I think even simple things like if you go get a coffee, you actually, most places will give you a discount if you take your own cup. With us, with packaging, what we were encouraging at a lot of restaurants around our office was that, if we bring our own box, will you give money off? And a lot of people are quite willing to do that. So I think you end up finding that your bottom line, fares a bit better as well. And there are these great, the collapsible containers. I love them because you can just stick it in your bag. It's unobtrusive, and I know that in a pinch I've got something, so I'm not bringing home extra waste.
For us, we switched to buying food or vegetables from the wet market instead of the supermarket. And it's like they taste a lot better, and they're not wrapped in plastic, and they're way cheaper.
To what degree do you think corporates with deep pockets are spending money on building foundations that do good rather than implementing real change in their own businesses?
That's a good question. I like that question.
Yeah, it's a good question. So our fund group, the Lin Fund Foundation, there are people within the business who are responsible for kind of doing good within the company and the business side of it. So looking to improve things along the supply chain in terms of both looking after people as well as environmental practices. And our focus is more on the wider communities in the places that we live and work. I think there are a lot of different corporate foundations with very different focuses. So some of them they'll pick, say, we're just going to look at child healthcare in like this geographical region, and others where their focus is donation matching for what the colleagues want to do, and trying to get colleagues on boards of other non-profits. And for me, I think as long as the foundations can show that what they're doing is having an impact and like getting their people engaged, I'm on for kind of whichever side they're going for. I mean, ultimately, I think incorporating sustainability and these kind of changes within the business should be a higher priority than it is. And I think there's massive scope for impact there, like through the for-profit business sector as well.
Do they talk to each other, those two sides? I mean, if the foundation is going into, let's say, in the fast fashion world, sustainable practices in creating new fibres, does that, I mean, in some cases I know that it does then speak to how the clothes are made, but do they have to be mutually exclusive? Like if you've got wonderful charitable donations going out through the foundation into not very connected to the core business, is it sort of a blindfold to not changing anything in the real business?
So I can only, in my own experience, I know the people who work on sustainability within the business, and like we speak fairly often. In other companies, I'm not sure. For us, we have quite a lot of we do a lot of mutual introductions, and like people share ideas and that kind of thing.
I think that what is one of the big challenges, though. I think getting people to talk to each other is a huge challenge, and I think the foundations and the CSR teams need to have a little bit more conversation, because I think a bit more accountability would come out of it, so we'd have better answers. I mean, your question is it as good as a guess as any, because we don't really know what comes out of a lot of these foundations. They seem to be doing great work, but what do you really know? And I think that level of accountability would be interesting. I agree. And I think that's one of the things that setting up a community of people, it does. It sort of starts demanding that accountability.
And it was also very great at getting people from different parts of the business in the same place to speak about it as well. Like, I met people at the same sustainability club from in parts of the business that I hadn't otherwise known.
So, just a question related to that. I mean, you guys went about actually, in the club, it was more about individuals making individual changes. That was more the focus, right? But at a corporate level, for example, you said recycling, making it a corporate priority was important as well. Did you get any support from the organization to make that happen? And typically, who are the people you should go to within organizations who are responsible for such things as that?
So a lot of that is actually in the book.
Sorry.
So I'm not going to give it all away, but we did have a very interesting.
I bought it already.
Because what we started was, just a way of getting people to talk to each other on a very individual level. But it did evolve into something where we were connecting with the corporate, and they were asking us to run campaigns and do things for them.
Okay.
And I think that's where things really started taking off and getting quite exciting. So yeah, so the impact levels became bigger.
So there's a concept in emissions in the manufacturing sector where the government limits how much you can emit into atmosphere, the bad gases, and there is a certificate trading where a specific company that wants to, has a requirement to trade more, has to buy that certificate from someone else in the market, so that there is a balance of how much pollution reaches the environment. Do you envision that at some point of time, with respect to plastic waste, we could have a concept like that?
I mean, I think it's quite close. I think they're all working on things, on meters and baselines, but I don't know to what extent it is, a feasible idea at this moment. I think it'd be quite interesting, because I think it would really start helping raise, get a little bit more perception on people in general, what needs to be done. There was a great article in Bloomberg, I think it was today. Was it you that sent it around, maybe? But it was a brilliant piece about how countries are sending waste back to, out of Asia and back to the countries it's been shipped out from. And I think that highlighted some of the emissions ideas as well. Send it to you.
I'm not sure if it's totally relevant, but I just want to know your thoughts on this. Do you think sustainability challenges economic growth, and do you think they can coexist?
I think they can. It's difficult, so I don't know how many people here are familiar with Crossroads, and they do a poverty simulation there where you're in this environment where you have to kind of produce something in order to make money, and then at the end of the whole process, the leader then asks you to look around and have a look at the room and see what you've done to it, and basically you trash the room. And the point of that kind of role-play game is that, okay, so when you were really focused on like getting enough to eat, like getting a roof over your head, like how much were you thinking about like the wider environment? The answer for us in that game was like not very much, and I think that's like pretty realistic. Don't think that sustainability contradicts like economic growth if it's already something that you're aware of. I think you can plan and design business processes and production so that they both kind of happen together. And I think there's a lot of companies around that you can see doing that now. If you look at just off the top of my head, like a company like Patagonia, which clearly has sustainability at the forefront of what they're trying to do. And like if you look at how they've grown, like with that as a big part of the company identity and who they are, it's actually helped them grow rather than hindered.
Been a huge marketing tool for them, regardless of whether if people think that it's honest or not.
Yeah.
They have been honest anyway, I'm going to wrap it from here. Thank you, both of you, for coming.
Thank you for
And
having us.
congratulations again for the book. I can't wait to read it. I haven't had a chance to read it all yet.
And there's a great quote of Sarah's. Another,
The most important page is no.
Hatred notes.
But yeah, and everybody please rush out and buy the book. I mean, not rush out, rush in here and buy it. And
a lot of people keep asking me, can they get a copy of it? We made a very conscious decision not to print anything because we said, okay, it is about sustainability and everybody's got an e-reader, so, you can tap into it on your way to work.
yeah.
It's a very short read, it's a very easy read, so hopefully, we get some more. What we're looking for is just some community reaction and just see what people really want to hear about, what would be helpful for perhaps a follow-up or just, a next level.
And do you think there'll be another book?
Yes. Depends on the community.
How long did it take you to write, actually?
I don't know. How long did it take us? Not terribly long. It's just a matter of being organised, I think. So I won't say any more than that.
Okay. But yeah, thank you everybody. And obviously you're welcome to do some guilt-free shopping after this.
There is a section about fashion in the book as well, so